working class is that section of the people on which work is imposed. The people who are alienated from their creativity, who are forced to create in circumstances that they do not want to create in, and who, as a result, will have to fight to be able to determine these circumstances. There was another concept that Marx often made use of, the collective worker. The collective worker is this continuum, the continuum beyond localized time or space, of the working class subjectivity. The collective worker is a universal, common to all those on whom work is imposed. Work is imposed on the collective worker. The collective worker is made of various people on whom work is imposed in various ways. In a different way in the factory, in a different way in agriculture, in a different way in the university, in a different way in the household. So work is imposed on the professor in one way. We propose that work is imposed on the student in another. Studenthood is a phase in the life of this collective worker. It doesn't matter if some students come from rich households, if some will go on to become factory owners or vice chancellors. At the moment of studenthood, they are part of the collective worker. Professors and students are part of the same continuum. They together occupy the university, and in fighting for self-determination, they are essentially on the same side. So, in opposition to the student as a consumer and the student as a product, is the student as worker. That the student does not create value does not matter, because capitalism decides what is valuable and what is not. But this does not change the fact that work is imposed upon the student. Anyhow, we need self-determination for happiness. And for self-determination, we have to fight. The tribal in Chhattisgarh might need to fight the police, multinationals, and the armed forces for self-determination. The factory worker will need to fight the factory owner. We have to fight the administration, the vice chancellor, for instance. If students, teachers, and karamcharis work in the university, what right has any random person to determine what will happen here? The vice chancellor and his pals are not elected representatives. They come in through the mechanisms in which we have no say. Today, we might be fighting semester system or service regulations, or against the attendance rule, fee hike or timely payment of karamchari salaries, but we also need to fight the arbitrariness with which these problems impose themselves upon us. It is not enough to say that the vice chancellor should not bring in the semester system. We have to ask why the vice chancellor should do anything at all. If there has to be an administrative body, then we should elect it and have the power of immediate recall if what we don't want to happen happens. Of course, all of this is a long way off, but are we even ready to think our problems through? If we don't push further than questioning a move here or a move there, we should know that till there is an administration, such things will happen. What about political students' organizations, essentially left organizations? How do they see the university and students? They too seem not to think of the university as a valid site for struggle. For them it seems the struggle is always somewhere else, in the forest or in the factory or in the slums. Of course it is there. It needs to be fought there, but it is also here. And it needs to be fought here as well. The university is not a place where activists are to be made to go and fight elsewhere. Unless we bring the struggle home, fight the particular forms of power that we face, transformation can never happen. I don't intend to be vituperated. These are not charges. It is just an appeal to rethink the aims of struggle in the university. Someone could ask, what if we do get this right to determine what happens here? What if we are allowed to elect our own administration? Does this mean that our problems are over? No, of course not. If we struggle merely for power to regulate, it won't take us anywhere. Once we gain it, instead of the current administration, some of us will be mediating between the market and the university. The outside, which will continue to be a problem, arbitrary, based on the idea of profit, not human happiness, will still determine us. Self-determination will not be complete in this localized fashion. Our demand for self-determination at a local level can only be tactical, not the final end. People everywhere face the problem that we face here, in different forms, in different degrees, but essentially the same. True self-determination, true democracy, can only come when the structure that centers this dynamic is destroyed. People struggling in their respective circumstances for self-determination will finally need to come together to push the struggle to its culmination. But this is a somewhat larger matter. we start with what we face, with the local structure through which power tries to determine our lives. In the process, we will, of course, as Laclau would say, solve a number of small problems, make our lives in the university a little better, bring a greater degree of democracy here. But we must keep in mind that these small things are not the end, because the end is that which seems impossible right now. This impossible can be made possible through an act which will retroactively make its own impossibility the condition of its possibility, shifting the horizon of possibility altogether. Thank you.